Yeah, so cocoa the matter. Me, I don't. You know me. I'm not coming with any wisdom. So it's not you guys. Not me that's going to lead this conversation. No, it's you guys.
Oh, yeah,
that know it's like that knows what it's like to date and it leads to marriage. That knows what it's like to be married. Knows what it's like to be parents. You have your child on the way. You have 3, 4th on the way. 1, 2nd on the way, or 2, right?
Second
right.
has dropped.
So we are here for all levels of wisdom. I think I've been having a lot of these conversations lately where people talk about, you know, churches, man, is epidemic of pray for marriage, pray for marriage, pray for marriage, pray for marriage. Yeah. And people are praying for marriage but not understanding what it's like to actually date, what it's like to actually relate, what it's like to actually partner with someone. Someone's looking for the marriage parts of it but not understanding what it's like when we actually get there, what are we supposed to do to make this thing work? So that's my ultimate goal, is to understand what it's like partnering, letting go of yourself, because it's easy to say in concepts that, okay, you know, let go of what I want so the other person can, you know, grow, so that we can grow together. But situations come and you're just like, but the person is wrong. Like, I would be doing an injustice to let them get away with this because they are wrong. So like, how do you start getting to that place of actually being able to relate and partner with someone? I'm going to start with you, Oti, because I want to ginger you to start talking, because of all the people who are outside, you're most quiet. So let us...
And you know, just as you're saying, you know, you are talking to somebody and you can see that the person is wrong. But, you know, the truth is, do you want peace or do you want to be right? And sometimes, for there to be peace, it's true. For there to be peace, you actually have to let go of that need to be right. You know, so it's sacrifice, man. It's sacrifice. And that sacrifice should actually start before you get married.
So now, sacrifice. We've heard that 1 million times. The actual implementing of it or working on it. But then let's get to this understanding thing. Because this understanding, I think like I'm learning the importance of understanding. But you know, sometimes it's easy to say as a word. What does it actually mean to fully be able to get to a position of understanding someone and them understanding you? And how do you, what helps you work on that level of understanding? And is that something that you feel like has to be done in the courting process? Or is that something that this journey of understanding each other continues in the marriage? Or do you feel like you should come to a full level of understanding before you decided to get in that place in the first place?
If you think about it this way, we're all like seeds. You have to start from somewhere before you grow. And the same thing with a relationship. I think courting is actually important, but it's what you do. Some people court, we know what their courting is. Their own is just for instantaneous gratification at that time. But if you have an intention to get married, the essence of courting is for you to know the other person and also let the other person know who you are. You know, and that's where the identity comes in. Who are you? What are you like? It's, you know, but then again, it's something you never know until you now get married. Yeah. Because that's when most of us show our true colors. When we're courting, you're doing this, you know, you're too...
Yeah. You're too put together.
Exactly. But when you're actually married, you know, that's when the reality comes in. But hopefully, with proper courtship, that understanding you're talking about begins, if your intention is to marry.
Definitely true. I think that you have to be intentional during courtship to learn to understand the person that you're with. If you are deliberate about it, and both parties make up their minds, the man and the woman, make up your mind to give yourself to the other person. This is who I am. The other person to reveals who they are. Then understanding can be formed. But what, you know, as he said, some people do is you pretend. You know, you're trying to make yourself attractive to the person that you're with, but in doing that, you're actually selling a false image, which when you now enter the house, you now come to a realization that, hold on, you don't like to cook, but Do you know what I mean? All kinds of things where you just be real. And if you are real, you can actually be very comfortable in the fact that this person loves the real you.
Exactly.
A lot of times people actually love a figment of imagination, something that has been concocted. But when you now enter the home, you find out that this is not who this person really is. And the person is not really confident because they know they've concocted an image that is not real. You know, so you save both parties pain if you're actually real in courtship. This is who I am. That's what naked and unashamed actually is. You know, that scripture. That's scripture that God gave me while I and my wife were courting, and we actually implemented it wholeheartedly. This is who I am. This is who you are. It was a very, very intense process because, you know, you reveal everything. But by the time you've done that, I know my wife knows me. So there are some things that some people are talking about, you know, do you tell your wife this, do you tell your wife that? I don't understand what they mean by that because I tell my wife everything. Everything. And she tells me everything. There's nothing hidden, you know, so it can be a painful process, but it's definitely worth it.
I want to move into the complicated parts of all this stuff because I think these are like, because for me, one thing I'm discovering is as you grow more, because we were talking about this earlier, this whole idea of God gives you a vision. Like you have the general idea of the vision, you do not know the how. And so you try and work things out by logic, what it is I'm supposed to go through to get to the process. And because we have come to this place of being resigned to as God wills, and I'm working it out on the journey, you start to reveal and understand new things about yourself. Maybe you're growing, you're changing, you're learning things about yourself that you didn't know before, right? So how does that part fit in? Because you can have this ideal understanding of what you need in a relationship, who you are, what you think you are, all these kind of things. And you're sharing those things openly. But in the course of the relationship, you're realizing that some of those things that you were expectations or some of those things that were things that you felt like you desired and you needed, there's more to it. And so now it feels like maybe you hit something, but you weren't hiding it because you didn't know at the time. But this stuff now has a deeper level of relevance. Now, how do we work with those things? Or we've shared stuff together and we know what we consider the major issues, and you realize there are subplots to these things that are relevant. How do you work with that in terms of understanding? Because now you've made this deeper commitment because you believe that all the things that were in alignment are the things that needed to be in alignment for the relationship to work and for the marriage to work. But then there are all these subplots of things that are incredibly frustrating when they come knocking on your door. How do you work with those? Because you cannot be learning all these new subplots and beside that because of this one can't work. Where's that line of I've made this commitment because I understand that the core values have alignment, but then these subplots come into play. How do you deal with the subplots, the smaller little things?
A lot of people don't let up to their wives, this is what I have, this is what I'm doing, because they don't know them yet, or they're getting to know them. But for those that are lucky, you know them, but there are some things you don't know, which is why you know, your talk show and everything, it helps. You know, a lot of people don't know that, you know, the essence of a joint account is not just to know what your husband has, but it's security for yourself and your husband and your children in case your husband is incapacitated and is in hospital and you need money. Obviously, if you're mature and you know who you are and you respect yourself and you love yourself, you won't spend that money anyhow, and the person can trust you to allow you to have control of the account because they know that if the children need something or if I'm trapped somewhere, you never know. You could go on a business trip, God forbid, plane gets hijacked or something happens and you're stuck somewhere. And your spouse is there left and you're calling and you're like, you know, what can I do? So we need to, that openness and that truthfulness needs to permeate throughout the whole. It's not just to show love, but more empathy, to sympathize, to show sacrifice, like you said. And that's the core thing. You know, you need to sacrifice your time and effort so that the other person benefits from it.
In addition to that, just if I look at my own journey, there are certain things that I thought were important in marriage at the time when we were courting. But after we got married and understanding what my journey is like and seeing that there are things about my wife I actually did not know I needed while we were courting. but they're actually there now, and they are a necessary part of our journey together. What that tells me is that man's wisdom is limited because you don't know what your journey actually is going to be like. So while you're trying to, find out what your wife is about, okay, this is what you're about, we actually need God's guidance, really and truly, to know, okay, this is the person for me. And he knows everything about your journey and why that person is the person for you on that journey. You may not be able to recognize in that person at the moment why her characteristics, her tendencies or whatever are necessary for your journey. But once you are aligned with the person he has pointed you to, then you know that you are set for whatever it is that is going to come. So it's important, as we do our, checks, whatever it is, just make sure that, look, this is who God is leading you to, then you can be rest assured that.
I think it's interesting because there's so many. I'm just taking my opportunity now to just fully, just everything that we just need to learn. Let's just learn this now. We've worked out these things. I know what I'm looking for. I even see the way that your characteristics are different and they are of value to my characteristics and vice versa, conceptually. Like, they work. You can see the plausible reason why this person has this attribute that I do not have and it should lend. And then the other way, the same way that they say that opposites attract in a way. Yeah. But then after they have now attracted, because you have the values that work for one another, but then how do you couple those things together? Because let's say you have the same core values, you have things that you believe in, you have things that you're achieving. In fact, your goals are similar because God has aligned you in a place where you have people that that you can partner with in concept, but your methods are completely different. Now, how do you couple those different opposing methods? Because you know that the heart of what you'd want to do is the same. And there's even a way where I can understand that your method might be better, but I just don't know how to do that method. I know how to do my method, and vice versa.
Sacrifice. Because, see, the truth is, and what you're saying is a major issue in a lot of marriages. I can see the value in what you bring, and you can see the value in what I bring. But you might have two people that have alpha personalities. I'm not backing down, you're not backing down. So somebody is going to need to bring themselves down in order for there to be peace in the home. I've said it that the marriage counseling that we have, currently is inadequate for the marriage journey, really and truly. The issues that you face, the issues that you face in marriage are complex, and it requires, emotional intelligence. Yeah, it does. Yeah, so really sacrifice. I understand that this is what you bring to the table. You understand that this is what I bring to the table. But for the sake of our home, there are times where I'll need to back down. There are times where you would need to back down. There are times where you need to pipe down, and things like that, until we get to a place where there's proper understanding of roles, responsibilities, and things like that, so.
And also to touch on the point of marriage counseling, I had to do 2. So I did one in church, and I did one with my godmother, Mrs. Gregory. And I lived with her for 7 years. So by some standards, she knows me. But she went in. I heard things I've never heard before. I think some of those things were now, they prepared me for the journey. And I remember like 2 sessions before we were done, she said it. She told my wife, if with everything that you know now, you're not comfortable in getting married to this boy, you can leave now. And you are not comfortable with it. So like we are not, really, really factual. People are just they just butter everything up, like, because marriage is complex.
There's one thing that's always impacted on me, when I read 1 Corinthians 13:4-8, which talks about what love is. Yeah. Because Christ says, love each other as I have loved you. Yeah. And that love he gave us is the sacrifice he's talking about. But there's that patience. That word patience, that's the only thing that can bring you down. But when I, looked at the word again and I looked at the definition, And for me, the irony was also in 2 Peter 3:9, which it talks about when it says, the Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, as some count slowness, but is patient towards you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance. Now, patience, when you look at that word, it all factors in with time. And your relationship is a matter of time. Yeah. Now, with patience, it's two things that I saw in it. The actual fact of being patient. But again, the word patient also means someone that is a patient, someone that is in need of help, someone that is sick. So if God is patient, he's patient with us both ways, emotionally and the fact that he knows we need him. We're sick, we're prodigal people. So we need to understand ourselves as husband and wives that, look, when things escalate, arguments, somebody has to pipe down. Be patient, be calm, and understand that I need to.
Most of the time, he has to be the husband.
Yes, I want to get into that because this, for me, I think, like, how do we talk about it, the importance of sacrifice, emotional intelligence, understanding, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Conceptually, great. Like, how do you, because, and actually, not even just as men, but, and I guess more so with men stereotypically, but as human beings, we become so used to fending for self. Considering self, you grow up as individuals before you get to this position of courting and dating and dealing with people in that way. So how do we actually, through examples, situations you've been through, understand how to let go, or how you judge and assess a situation as to the situation where you're meant to let go, where you actually are capable of realizing, where like alerts start going off in your head that this thing is not that deep. Because in the moment, it always feels that deep. It's just like, but I know that the argument is not major and it's not going to shift our lives drastically. But in the course of the moment, it's simply not easy to see past the fact that this doesn't, like, your own version doesn't make logical sense.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's logical.
Like, how do you let go? How do you start to realistically realize our roles as men to be able to acknowledge those situations? Because obviously there are a lot of people who are struggling, a lot of men who are struggling with the idea of that.
Patience is very important. It's very, very key because you will be tested every day. There is no day your test will not come. I have had my test today. I'm going to have it tomorrow. And they have theirs too. But, you just have to pray for that level of patience and just be calm and see the end results from now. So if you erupt now and just go ballistic, what is that going to do for the situation? And if you are calm and address the situation like an adult, because it's like an adult just observing. I know there's this Yoruba proverb, but I'm not going into it right now, but it's too deep. But you have to see the end from the beginning and weigh your options. So when she's going, no, and when she calms down, then you explain. But you have to be the calm one. In the marriage, the men have to always be calm. If you want peace, it starts from you. If you want war, it starts from you.
For me, in 1,000 years, if someone had said, your wife would write a book that's so open and vulnerable about, adultery and everything, and how would you handle it? I said, it will never happen to us. I'm always there. If you met us when we started courting and our first 3-4 years in marriage, we're always out clubbing together. But one thing I realize is being physically together is totally different from emotionally together and communicating. It's not that we didn't communicate, but I didn't cater to what she needed. Women need certain forms of communication. Sit down, just to listen. You don't have to talk, and don't help them analyze. Like you said, be patient. Try and be wise and go ahead of them and see where they're landing, and just listen. Because they just want to express themselves. Don't say, no, you can't do it this way, you can't do that. But we're men. We think very logically. Yeah. We're not emotional, it's logic. I'm going to I'm going out with the kids tomorrow, we're going to playground. I'm not thinking, will I wear heels? Will I wear trainers, shorts, t-shirts? That's my own logic. But their own, which bag would I carry? Which one will I do this? Do I do, so those are the things.
Is this week going to match?
Hey, thank you. So those are the kind of things that will frustrate you, and if you're not patient. So going back to the book, at the end of the day, I realized that I was the one that neglected that time or that thing she needed that I didn't see, which is why she sought to look for it in someone else. And it was then I realized that, oh, I was the one that was at fault. Which is why in that realization it was, let me not use the word easier, it was grace that allowed me to forgive her and pray for her when she told me exactly everything at that time. But, and that's one thing I've learned, and like we said, God is real and He wants to use all of us. And that's why I keep saying that 2 Peter 3:9. He's patient. He might be slow the way we understand slowness, and that's time. The way we understand time, we don't understand time as a purpose. We understand time as an objective or a concept,
Or
an idea. But it's a purpose. Every minute is for a reason, but we don't understand. And I feel that what happened between my wife and I in the book The Richer Woman was meant to happen. I remember when we were discussing before we came into the studio about Joseph. If Joseph knew he was going to be who he ended up being, he would have tried to do it his own way and he would have failed. But if my wife and I knew that she was going to write that kind of book, there's no way we would intentionally say, oh yeah, one of you go and mess up. But it's that flow and that realization of this thing that's happened to us, what does God want to do with it? And it's the same thing with husband and wife. We need to understand that the 2 naira situation we're in, sorry I keep going back to
it's okay. I love it.
The 2 naira situation we're in, we didn't expect it, but what are we going to do with it? The 2 billion naira, because we'll get there by His grace if it's meant to. The 2 billion naira we find ourselves in, what are we supposed to? It's not, are we supposed to lavish ourselves, or are we supposed to help other people? Some people don't see that. You understand? So it's, apart from the sacrifice, the patience, is also as for a man, and that's one thing I've learned. And I'm still trying, I won't say it's easy. That communication, that understanding, that sitting down and allowing them to express themselves.
Handle this stuff, dealing with the heavy things, because everybody's got the heavy burdens that they carry. And some seem like in concept they're too heavy for you to carry. Heard about yours in terms of, well, not everyone has heard, in terms of the richer woman, even not just the stuff that happened within the marriage, but the stuff that happened prior that led to that in terms of different things that you're dealing with. And also there's stuff with you as well. Like, how do you then, what does it take for you to be able to carry somebody else's weight with them? Because that is such a huge part of someone, of being able to walk with someone, because there are areas in everyone's lives, areas of yours that make you feel unworthy and everything, and the areas in that person's life and you have to be able to cover that. What is that like? Because I know that your story is, or your story as a couple is deep. And so how do you carry that? And I know that obviously with time, there are probably areas that makes it feel now like less of a weight, but initially?
Well, it was a journey. Like, when you tell a person your deepest and darkest secrets, like, you can't be with me after all of this now, but it's not possible. And the next thing I said is, let us pray. Because I had a knowing already that this is my wife. Regardless of what you're going to tell me, I don't really care. I care, but I'm still going to end up with you anyways. So it's not your doing, it's God's doing. And I had a conversation with Him and we're cool. So whatever it is that you're telling me now, I had to instantly deal with it. So the night that she told me everything, thinking that night, that was the end. And then I said, let us pray. And then she just went, ah. And I also went, just a little. and I left. But from that point on, it was a journey. Because at the point, she could not, if she hears the word rape, that's it. That day, mood has finished. We might be in the car together and might be probably on radio or a song or something like that. And she just hears it. She couldn't even utter the word when I knew about it. So it was really, really fresh. So I had to work with her by being there. Don't do anything, just be there, be present. Like he said, you know, they want to talk. Be present. They don't want your opinion, they just want to talk. You know, there are times where I need to also talk, you know, I need to. So it was a journey, and then the first time she spoke about it anywhere in front of people, I was there with her sisters, her brother-in-laws, everybody was there to support, you know, and it was really great. And every single place that she had gone to up until recently, that she's spoken about it, I have been there. So she just knows that someone is here with me. And then now, she's now helping people that have gone through the same thing, you know. But I had to go through that journey. I had to be matured enough, and I you know, God has given me that grace. Like I just piped down, you know, and just understood the situation. And okay, she's here. Like when we started dating, she liked me, but it wasn't like she had feelings for me. It was like, let's try it. Trap. Trap. She, like 7 months into the relationship, nothing, nada. So I had to love the two of us from me. That takes a lot of patience. But when she got there, it was worth it. It was really, really worth it. So it's a lot of patience, and I thank God now. It's heavy, you know. Yeah. Even before our dad knew, it was a whole thing. But thank God, God gave him the grace to really take it, because he knew 4 years after. You know, yeah, he knew 4 years after. Because if he knew at that time, Casarola was just bust, you know. But thank God, the grace was there, and then everybody's cool now. And then when she goes out and talks about it, you know, and then like after everything, I'm married, you know. Now after everything, I'm pregnant. Do you understand? So there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But then for every victory that she has, I'm there with her. So that means sacrifice on my own part. If there are things that I need to do that are not as important as that, I have to postpone or cancel so that I'm there with her for that healing process. And now she has gotten to a place where she's fine. So she can go out by herself and do it, and she's fine without me.
Okay, I have learned a master class.
Marriage is good.